Hi and good evening, everyone. My name is Albert, and this is VlogsBoutNothin. Thank you very much for taking the time. It's Wednesday, to be here with me on the channel. I really appreciate that. I know that sometimes, most of the time, when we're not talking about nothing and when we're talking more categorically about certain kinds of categories within the realm of nothing, it can get kind of tough, which is why we all just, it's all a joke. It's all a joke. But what's not a joke is racism. And, as many punchlines as one might want to think as it concerns racism and all these things, would be super inappropriate in that racism is still a thing. And tonight I want to talk about how racism equates to surviving. And I think ultimately, if we ask ourselves that very question, we can sort of delve deeper into the institutionally provided in current modern times way of building our society moving forward and just how it really impacts those that we've left behind and continue to not acknowledge moving forward in the kind of way that we must. And so, a lot of what we talk about here on the channel is inspired from my real life. That's kind of the whole sell point is I don't have cool graphics. I don't know what I'm doing with lighting. The production value is terrible. I'm just convinced that I might have some good ideas. I'm convinced that I know for sure that I want to make friends. I know for sure that this kind of content and vlogging helps me sort of deal with the everyday inequalities that I see and so forth. But today I was doing some stuff outside IRL and, made a new friend like we always do. It was actually my roommate and I. And I think from what I took as a big part of our meet and the larger part of the conversation was from what I understand and from what I've been told, and I experienced this a little bit. As a brown person, I'm not going to sit here and say, or as a Hispanic biracial person, in terms of like, I think my mother is white and like my dad is brown, I'm brown, I'm like Hispanic to say that I haven't been treated in a certain kind of a way because of the color of my skin would be false. I have had many instances in my life as a young person, as a middle aged person, that people don't like me because of the color of my skin. And now, that's weird. That's awkward, right? I've never met anybody and immediately disliked them because of the color of their skin. I can't imagine that. I'm not colorblind. I don't think colorblind is color fine, and that the color of our skin is who we are, and it's kind of like where we're from in the very basic biological sense. And so skin color does exist. It does. There's white people, there's black people, there's brown people. However, we want to identify on the spectrum of shades of color. To put this into perspective too, because of like my biracial upbringing, I'd say from both my mother and then my father, right, and being in the home and stuff, is that pretty quickly as a secondary student or a secondary pupil, right around kindergarten, first grade, the first things that you draw when you're a little kid are people, right? I mean, they're the first things that you're a person, you see people, you love your mom, you love your dad, you love your brothers, your sisters, the people around you. Typically, if you're having a good experience, are going to be very supportive of you. Human beings, it takes a village. We're not like other mammals. Can't just sort of come out of where we come from and do our own thing. We're very, very needy. Kind of ironic. Maybe we're not from here. I'm just saying it takes a lot of work to successfully, propagate the human species. And I think that racism and the idea that certain skin tones on this earth feel like they have to survive more over than live is weird, right? So today when I was talking to my new friend, right, it was pretty clear to me in terms of like he being somebody who identified as an older black man, in that I can't imagine being black. Yeah, you heard me. In that, like, I'm brown, right? But people treat black people really bad, and I don't understand why. And I never have. And going back to that example, when I was a kid or a boy, I'd always like draw everybody peach. For some reason, this was my default color as, and again, I think it's obviously because I'm brown, right? That like, and and I've been from a community that is predominantly Hispanic people, in that that's really like the color of most of our skin around here, and that like there's less white people, less black people, more Native Americans, more Hispanics, more just generations of both Spaniards and Mexicans, sort of doing the chicky to sort of with other white people to sort of make this skin tone. But I can't imagine what it would be like to be treated so bad because of the color of your skin, because of the color of my skin, however you want to say that. I can't imagine. Like, why would you? That's weird, right? Like, in terms of, but it's not. It's weird to actually, like, think like that, right? But in terms of putting you're putting yourself in other people's shoes, you can't. It is unfair to even imagine, because there's an entire group of people out there in the world that have been, dare I say, sought out and unalived because of the color of their skin. A group of people who have, for centuries on over, been sold as a group of people that fall short of other groups of people simply because of the color of their skin. That's too much. That's too much. Slavery, too much. Indentured servitude before slavery, too much. White people not loving other white people and starting world wars, that's too much. Just fellow man not being able to get along, too much. And then passing the buck so that future generations have to deal with people hating other people because of the color of their skin, putting them in situations, whereas pointed out to me earlier, certain racial ethnic minority groups don't ever live. They don't ever live a life. They survive their life. And when he told me that, you know, it's always very powerful when you're reminded of the reality that you're sort of born in. And I think white people, privileged Hispanic people, anybody that has any kind of privilege, whether that be financially or socially, really, really can be more understanding in its acceptance that racism exists, and that if we don't face the tougher parts of a modern day racist driven society, then we're only going to fail. It's too much. The African continent still being basically colonized by the French and English and Americans, and it's too much. It's not far to say that black people to this day continue to be treated in the worst of ways that they can be treated on a global level, as it concerns their ethnic identity or the color of their skin. And that's not fair. I think it's beyond unfair. And I think it's a conversation that we have to have so that we can hopefully make a world one day where black people don't feel like they're surviving and they can actually feel like they're living. I mean, can you imagine that? My privileged fellow white and Hispanic people out there that have had the fortune of living a life, who have had the fortune of living a life that has led to dynastical, generational, familial wealth, and that the same people who started families hundreds of years ago still have families. They're still very prideful, they're still very American, they're still just as much American as the people that we treat with such disdain. They're Americans too. They are. They're also people. And they're not in any way, shape, or form less than any of us. A bad person's a bad person, but you don't have to be any color of any kind of skin tone to be a bad person. Seriously, get over that. If that's like the sort of racist inclination to live one's own selfish way of life, to continue to promote and propagate a system that clearly is not working, and moreover can never ever be understood by any other people than the people that are going through it, as it concerns their perception of their existence as a sentient creature on the terrain of this planet. No one should feel like they're surviving. Whether it's black people around on all over the world, whether it's the Uyghurs population, ethnic minorities anywhere, it's not okay. It's very barbaric and it's super unexcusable. So it's best to talk about this stuff so that we understand where our accountability is moving forward. Our accountability moving forward must be a future where skin color does not matter. And it does not matter not because we choose not to look at skin tone, but because we choose to be better people and acknowledge that we've been really, really bad people and that that's not okay, but we certainly can be better. That's all that I'm saying. Because I don't want to live a life where every black person I meet is convinced that they have to survive. I want them to live. I want everybody to live. I want everybody to enjoy the best kind of experience that they can, because life is really short. And just when it gets to be fun, it's over. You know, and it's very trivial. Our existence is very fleeting. Our impression that we leave is short-lived, one could argue. So it's really important that we be good to each other. That's all. We should not make people feel like they need to survive when so many of us have the privilege of living a life. And if you can understand that on a very basic level, it doesn't have to be politically driven, religiously driven, it's like atheists. It's like, be a good person, man. Don't make it so that an entire group of people around the world are surviving at the cost of all of us thriving. That's some straight up evil stuff, yo. I'm telling you, that's what it is. And I'm not okay with it. And I don't think other people are okay with it either. Not when we're talking about it and not when we actually address the modern day issue of how racism is going to need to be dealt with moving forward. Listen, I really appreciate you guys watching my channel. Thank you very much. We talk about some stuff sometimes that can be difficult at best, but understand that while I am obviously very biased in how I perceive what I believe to be the treatment of other human beings in a kind of a way as absolute, abysmal, abhorrent, and inexcusable, and I don't really see how that can be argued. So yeah, sorry, not sorry on that one. In terms of it's tough stuff to talk about, and it's important that we talk about it. But I am, I guess, sorry if I make you feel uncomfortable and or awkward in a weird kind of a way, because I just want to make you think a little bit about how the world is around us, and you know, it's for the record, at least the way that I perceive it to be, and I want it to be a better place. So part of me making 4 videos a day from here until forever is really trying to do that, you know? I mean, I'm doing nothing else. I may as well do something, especially when I'm trying to actively do nothing. So, again, I hope that you guys have a really good night, and I hope that you're able to, have sort of this conversation with the people that are close to you, and especially the people that are our peers and younger, right? Because it sucks. It sucked today. It sucked like anytime. Hearing people not being able to enjoy a life, and having a terrible life. I can't imagine. And I don't know why. I don't know why other people don't want to fix that. So I hope that you guys have a really good night again, and thanks for watching my channel. All right, bye.